All right, go ahead.
Hold on. I'm Paul Selig, and this is Your Superior Self.
Paul, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're busy with another book and you're promoting the kingdom, which I love, by the way. Thank you so much for taking the time, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
So this book, I guess that's the way that the guides have set it up for everyone is kind of like, I don't know, maybe it was different for you than for everyone else. I don't know. For me, it was, I had to read like majority of your books before this one kind of knocked it out of the park for me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, I think last time we talked about the Christ, the resurrection of the Christ was like the rolling of the rock coming out of your heart, that kind of thing. And then like I still kind of externalized the Christ from myself, right? Like I still couldn't understand that concept. Between this book, I'm reading it, and I wish I had a camera on me. Like I remember sitting in in the other study, and I'm reading it, and like I don't know, I can't remember what the phrase was, but this realization that I'm not separate from that, like that Jesus and I are one, that I am with the source of creation. Like I am that, right? That inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
You should have seen my like I picked, and I don't know if it was like the goal of the guides to like kind of baby step me through these books, because I would read the monad or whatever they term it, but I just never got that concept until this book. Is that what, do you think that was the way it was drawn up, or like they meant for that to happen?
Well, the books are in, I think they're all energetic transmissions, and I think the transmissions build so that the reader can hold them. You know, the guides have said if we took you too quickly into a too bright room, you'd go blind. So they bring it to us as we can hold it. And they've been teaching since the very first book, which was called I Am the Word, this idea of the manifestation of the monad. They call the monad, it's the divine spark. Sometimes they call it the Christ or the true self. It's all the same thing. I think there's probably a word or a name for it in every religious system of some kind. So I think you're getting it. It's what it sounds like. And it sounds like you're getting it when it was time to get it. You know, they talk about Jesus some in the books, but they talk about the Christ as the divine spark that was realized, they say, by Jesus and others. You know, it's the word. And they say that the word is the energy of the creator in action, and that we really can't be separate from it, but we believe ourselves to be. And what they're doing in all of these books is sort of bringing us home. I think that's the easiest way to say it.
Sure. You seem you just seem like in a good spot right now. Like you just, to me, like I know we've had like 3 episodes, or this is our 3rd episode, but I feel an energy of you that is just very calm and like very, I don't know what the word is, but you feel in a good spot.
Yeah, I am, you know, and I think in some ways I'm having an experience of the teachings in my life, which is how they say this stuff happens, you know, and your life is your teacher, your life is your classroom. And I feel really fortunate. And everything that's happened in my life, really in the last almost 1.5 years, has been stuff that I wouldn't have expected to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really grateful for it, you know. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, thank you for noticing. I am in a good space. I'm happy to be here.
I too. So in the kingdom, like, can you talk about that with the listeners? Like, so once you make this realization for yourself, right? Like I know for me, it's kind of hard, because now what do you do with it, right? Like I think the kingdom is kind of like, you know, helping you along with that realization, and then saying, all right, well, now that you have this realization, this awareness, nothing changes, right? Like you just kind of, you re-see things for what it is, right? Is that about right?
I think it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
I think the guide's definition of the kingdom is the realization of the inherent divine in all manifestation. They say you can't make anything holy, but you can deny the divinity in everything and anything. And for the most part, we have and we do. So it seems to me from what they teach is that they're bringing us almost into the first room. The kingdom, they say, is a level of Christ consciousness. They've described it as the highest level of vibration that we can hold while maintaining form,
Hmm.
while we have a body. But I also understand that it's an octave. So they say our reality that we share here is as an octave, low notes and high notes. And that the whole purpose of these books is almost to transpose the tone, the music, the vibration that we are to play in the next octave up, which is what they call the upper room. So is everything the same and different? Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. But is it the end? No. I mean, what happens at this level of realization, I think, is quite different. They say you become the doorway to between the two realities. In a lot of ways, when you're aligning at the level of the kingdom or that level of consciousness, your very presence is impacting, the reality that you've known, and in fact, lifting it. They say everything operates in vibrational accord. And they'll often say ACCORD or ACHORD is on a piano. And the tone or the song or the vibration from the upper room, they say, claims the inherent divine in what it encounters. It's basic entrainment, like attracts like. So in some ways, you become a transformer of reality through this level of alignment.
Hmm. Yeah, because I've asked you before about like the law of attraction, like
Mhm.
what you have this awareness, right? Like you have this awareness of greatness that is inside of you. It's like why suffer still, right? Like why still be subject to the small self, the ego, and like listen to the echoes that are in your brain, and thinking that you're lesser than anything than greatness. But it's like you're in this reality that can be very dense, right? And you can definitely like get caught up and forget this stuff, right? Like let's say you're having a bad day, and like, yes, I'm aware that how, you know, how great we really are, but because of
Mhm.
the stress, because of the everyday nuances, like you forget moment to moment, right? Like, and they talk about this in this book, and it's like, but how does Paul Selig? I mean, I know no one's perfect, right? As far as like living continuously in the moment of that greatness, but like, are you with the higher, like reaching the higher octaves? Are you finding those moments? You're staying in those moments longer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not going to say no. My default position my whole life has been worry. I was a worried kid. I was a worried grown up. It's kind of where I know myself and what my comfort zone is. It's harder for me and more challenging for me to be joyful. And I'm finding myself joyful, happy, all of these things, which strikes me as kind of miraculous and somewhat odd because I'm so more comfortable in the other, you know?
Mhm.
So it's a big shift. The guides have said to me, yeah, I've done the work, I just don't know it yet, you know? Like the work's been done on an energetic level and I still have to integrate it. And maybe that's so. I hope that's so. I mean, they haven't really led me wrong with this work yet. But I'm having a different experience. They just finished dictating their 10th book. It was a 6-week process. It was all done in front of people. And, what they're talking about in that book is really having a foundation in what they call the upper room so that it becomes the norm. It's not this sort of exotic experience of peace. But then they talk about what happens in the upper room is really finally an agreement towards this idea of union, of not really being separate from the person beside you or the source of all things, because they say there's one note emanating in the entire universe, and they call that the word or the creator, whatever you want to call it, that's in manifestation as all things. And the realization of that that's within you. And then it must be, if it's in with you, it must be within me or everybody, including the guy you can't stand or those people over there that make you crazy. And that's where the challenge really is, but where the real change is. You know, we've been operating with this kind of odd tribalism, you know, where everything is born in separation. And the guides have said, you know, we believed ourselves to be so separate from the ones beside us that we claim separation from source. And you really don't get to have them both ways. You know, you really can't. The guides say, what you damn, who you damn, damns you back, which means that's just law of attraction, you know?
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yep.
When did you like, for you in your journey, like when did you start realizing that, like that we are one with God? Like, was it, I mean, you've been doing this for a while now, but was there a
Yeah.
certain point where you had that realization?
No, I mean, it's not about my realization, I think. It's about, I'm a channel. I'm not a spiritual teacher. I'm not a guru. I don't want to be those things. I can interpret the guide's work when I'm asked, which is what I'll do in an interview like this, but I'm not the teacher. So I'm a student of the work. So I've had experiences of union, a few of them in my life, which have been beautiful and shocking in some ways. But no, there wasn't a moment when I went, wow, I'm one with everybody. How great that is. It's more like, oh my God, I'm one with everybody. This is fucked up. What does that mean? You know, what are the implications of that? And I mean, there are things that are taught in religions, you know, that I wouldn't have understood without some of these teachings, you know, this idea that, you know, what you do to another, you do to yourself. I mean, all of those things are basically this teaching of union, you know, and I can't say any of it's convenient or convenient to me. I do know that I'm having a life now that I didn't know that I could have. And I'm enormously grateful for it. And I actually do credit God or the guides or whatever you want to call it for helping this to happen, because I wouldn't have chosen it, because I wouldn't have known that I could. You know, the best life I thought I would get would be a better apartment in New York, you know, and, you know, I don't know, stay healthy, or, you know, I mean, isn't it, you know, and I've really been given a whole other life.
Yeah,
And I'm really aware of it. So I'm not taking it for granted.
that's beautiful, man. I love that. Um, how is living in Maui like helped you energetically? Like, is it helping you like connect more with consciousness, like with the guides? Is it like a more clear connection? How is it like? Because I feel like Maui has just this feeling to it, or this energetic like level that is just out of this world. Like, how has it helped you?
Well, the whole thing, the whole experience has helped me. So I didn't plan on coming here. I was in Costa Rica doing a workshop when New York City shut down last March, and I didn't know where to go because I couldn't go back home. And I ended up here because a friend found me a place to stay, and then I just stayed. I never went home. You know, I never went back to the city. It's crazy. But my feeling when I got here was such a sense of peace that I hadn't known before, and also a sense of being cared for and welcomed, and by the place, by the whole experience. It was really something I hadn't known, you know, and I was really gifted with community, you know, and people that I met that have been, you know, kind and loving and caring and welcoming. And so, you know, everything that sort of happened has been showing me in some ways what the guides teach, you know, how we can be, you know, how I can be. And so I find myself much less self-absorbed, much less selfish. It just doesn't, a lot of things just don't occur to me. And do I still have problems? Yeah. Do I still complain a lot? Yeah, you know, but so I think I credit Maui a lot. I feel fortunate to have met the people that I've met here, and none of that felt accidental. It's all been sort of strange. I ended up finding, or they found me, or I don't know how it happened, the sat song that was there for Ramdas on the island, and you know, and that was remarkable and continues to be remarkable, to meet people that are really walking a walk that I admire. So I don't know. I'm Maui. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of woo-woo on Maui. You know, I'm not a woo-woo person. I'm not a very good new ager. I'm too old to be a hippie. I'm actually too young to be a hippie from the first time round. I'm too old to be a second generation hippie. But it's good people. What can I say?
That's awesome, man. No, I'm glad. I'm happy for you. I mean, I feel like, um, in these incarnations, right? Like, I, I struggle. I struggled early on in my journey, just trying to find the answers, right? Like, I just feel like you're holding too firm on the rope. Like, you're trying to figure everything out. You have these
Yeah.
goals. The ego is saying you need to figure this out.
Mhm.
And the more that, like, with the help of your book, The Kingdom, and a couple of um, other books as well. I don't know if you know his name, Michael J. Rhodes. I just picked up one of his books. I'm letting go a lot more and just allowing the flow of life to come to me more. Right? Like, it's not an end goal of I want to get enlightened. I'm going to go and try to be this enlightened person and blah blah blah. Now it's more or less like I'm just trying to enjoy what's around me, like, and allow life to come to me. I don't, you know, the external goals are just starting to fade away a little bit more, like
Yeah.
I'm just finding peace in a lot of the everyday moments that before I wasn't finding. I was more too worried about what I was doing to get ahead. I don't know if, like, you still, like, I mean, I just feel I could just tell difference in you right now. So I feel like we're on the same wavelength, but I think a lot of people, um they struggle early on in spirituality, as far as like trying to reach up, that enlightenment,
Mhm.
and they're trying to search out gurus and subscribe to things, and they want this quick hack of how do
Yeah.
you get nirvana, and I don't think that's it.
I don't either. I don't think it works that way. It's some of that's the cultural moment that we're in. I think it may have always been that way. And I just didn't know it. But when I look back on my own path, and I started opening up spiritually when I was 25, and then psychically, it all was sort of happening around the same time. But I've been raised an atheist, and I didn't know what to make of all this. And I'm a gay guy, and I was disenfranchised by religion, and I didn't care, about the organized stuff. But I had been so hungry for God, or whatever you want to call it, in a way that I couldn't have ever even articulated. I mean, it's like that desire, I think, is in some ways within us. And I had done a really good job denying that. But my path has been, you know, had all the same detours and bumps. I've just been on it a while, and I don't consider myself enlightened. And I don't know that I will be. And I don't even know that I would say that that's a goal. My desire now is for peace, and to be at peace, and to share that. I enjoy that I get to show up for this weird stuff that comes through me. I hope that people are helped by it. But I can't really have another agenda beyond it. It's funny, but I'll say this. When I was, I don't know, maybe 32, 33, had enough experience, that there was really something going on, that there was more than just the body. And I was taking this workshop with this woman who I studied healing with, who's no longer with us. And she said in this workshop, okay, everybody, ask for one thing. You're going to get it. I'm going to give you this prayer. It works. And write it down. Be careful how you write it down, because you're going to get it. And I don't know, maybe I just trusted her so much, but I did. I went, I thought, and I read. And, I used to think, God, I just should have asked for a nice place to live and a life partner and been easy. But I was like, no. I was like, I want to go all the way with this, whatever this spirit stuff is. I want to go all the way. And it was very earnest. It was an earnest request, because it's almost like once you have a sense that this is real, other things just start to kind of feel stupid. And that's where I was. And then I had an awful few years, and when I was channeling maybe 3 years ago, I was with somebody who asked questions of my guides for me. And Paul, we're going to ask some questions for you because I can't really channel for myself unless somebody's acting as the active listener. And the guide said to her, "Oh yeah, Paul, your job is to hold the door open for other people." And I'm like, "What?" And she was like, "What?" We're both like, "That sucks. That's not fair." But when I thought about it, and then at the end of, I guess it was the Book of Freedom, they said to the reader, "We're holding the door open and everybody gets to come through, everybody." And then they said, "You, Paul, you get to come through now too." And I was floored by that. They said, "You get to come." And what I realized the books were the door. I'm holding the door. That's the doorways are the books. That's my job, is to be to be in that role for this. But I'm glad I get to come to, and that I don't get to just sit there and complain that I'm not, having this high experience. But I don't know. And and maybe there are, my experience has been people who run around saying that they're enlightened aren't. It's just like, if you got this stuff, you're probably pretty quiet about it.
Sure.
There's no need. You know it, so you don't have to shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah. What is it like? I don't know, just saying or something. If you see Buddha on the street and or something, like, if they say they're the Buddha, then you shoot him or something, kill him because he's not the Buddha.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm finding it, like, I'm loving myself more, and like, not like really, like, not, oh, I love myself like emotionally, but like really loving myself and like trusting my higher self that it's gonna take me to where I need to go. Like, I'm letting go of the wheel finally. Like, it's taken me so long to do that because I always felt like, if I wasn't in control, shit wasn't gonna get done,
Yeah.
or it wasn't gonna get done right.
Yeah. How old are you now, Trey? Can I ask?
38.
Oh my, you see, you're very young.
But
Compared to-
you don't think that you're young, right? Like, you feel like I'm
When
getting
I
old.
was 38, I was like over the hill, and I'm pushing 60 now. So I am old.
You look great.
That's kind of you,
Yeah.
I, but I get it too. I mean, I didn't, I don't, the concept of self-love used to just throw me completely, and there are ways that I am not loving to myself. I don't care for my body as I should. And, I just have tantrums about, having to take care of myself. But other ways I'm good, I'm being full of more care for me, in my life in a way that I didn't quite get. So I don't know. I think you're probably way ahead of the game.
What do you think?
There
I
is a
think it's
game.
because of the books though, right? Like, I feel like it's the books, maybe it's the collective consciousness, maybe it is, because I don't even know, like, I'm being honest with you. Like, people tell me a lot of the time, like, the people that I read, they keep talking about this fifth dimension. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I don't, like, they keep saying we're just three-dimensional being, and then in 4D, 5D. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I just know that I feel great when I read this material and I vibrate differently. And then maybe there is some type of collective shift in consciousness and vibration, and it's allowing for people to reach this awareness quicker. I don't know.
Well, I hear that's true. I mean, I don't think my guides had ever talked about 5D, and, but they talk about the upper room and they say it's a dimensional reality, and maybe that's the same thing, and they're just using their own language. And so I don't concern myself with that. I used to think that it was sort of about getting stuff or figuring stuff out, and what I'm beginning to understand, that it's about being in a place of reception, and knowing that you're worthy to receive, but also sort of having to say maybe that if there is a God or something like a God or whatever you want to call God, maybe it knows what I need, before I can even articulate it. I mean, I'm living a life now that I had an outline kind of what I wanted. When some of those things I got, I wanted to live someplace retreat-like and beautiful, and, and I have that right now. But it all happened in ways beyond me. And I'm not that special. I think the only difference was I had my reality, which was New York, sort of the rug was pulled out from under me. And, my expectations of what I was going to do for the next year, which was touring. I didn't go anywhere. I moved to online work. And I don't know, but I do think it's about allowance much more than I used to, and not about getting it right, because I don't know what right is half the time. My idea of right would be based on what somebody else has told me or what I think I should do or be. I still think I should be, 50 pounds lighter, and I should be partnered to somebody great. And maybe those things will happen. But you know what? I'm good
Hmm.
regardless, and that's a funny thing for me to say, because it's not my normal. I mean, I'm talking too much about my experience here, but I just really want to confirm your own, and if it
Yeah,
is
but
it's great.
yeah, but I love hearing your experience though, right? Because it's like Paul Selig that a lot of us don't get to see. Well, I read the books, right? And it's about the channeling and the message, but we don't know what is the student Paul Selig going through? You know what I mean? Like what's behind the scenes?
Well, there's been a lot of pain, it's not been my growth, and my spiritual path has not been particularly easy. I don't know if I just made it hard, which is probably likely because I thought it was supposed to be, but it was, and often is, and probably will be again. And I don't know that it's about getting what you want when you want it and being happy all the time. The most
Mhm.
growth I've been through has been through the greatest challenge. I don't want to have to repeat those challenges. I expect more will come because that's part of being alive. But the guides say this is school. We're here to learn, and our curriculum is our life. And how we choose is up to us. And if we're choosing in fear, we're going to get more of the same. And if we're choosing from the true self, which is the part of us that's unafraid, we'll continue to move, I would say upward, for lack of a better word, or forward perhaps.
Sure.
I do get that there's a collective shift happening. I've been getting this since the first book was dictated in 2009. They said humanity is at a time of reckoning, and a reckoning is a facing of oneself and all of one's creations. And they've been talking about this stuff in every book. And a lot of what they've talked about has pretty much come to pass. It's this strange reality we're in right now, which they still say is opportunity. It's great change, but it's also great opportunity. And they say, which gives me some hope, that humanity as a whole has decided to go up to the next level, to ascend, to transform. That is a collective choice that's been made, but also because I get that we won't survive if we don't.
Mhm.
We'll kill each other.
Mhm.
I, they say, the idea that we build bigger bombs to keep ourselves safe is ridiculous if you think about it.
Yeah.
They're meant to go off, and eventually one day they will, unless we change the consciousness that we have. And the consciousness that we have expects to be at war because we've always been at war. It's how we know ourselves.
Mm. Yeah. And I'm a big believer, and it's hard for me to say this, but I do believe in it. It's funny. It's hard for me to say, but I believe it. Like your reality is what is being portrayed from the inside, right? Like whatever's going on in inside is your reality. And it's like I'm starting to learn, like when things get rough, because they do, right? Like not everybody has, like you said, this perfect life. And especially depending on what industry you're in or what job you're in, things get hectic and things seem like the storm never passes. It's always over. You got this storm cloud following you wherever you go. But I'm starting to like not even acknowledging that it's this storm cloud. I'm just like, all right, it's just happening, just unfolding. And the more that I kind of put labels on things, the more that I put things in boxes, and the more that I try to, organize the boxes and say this is right or wrong. And I'm just kind of looking at it like I just have a rain cloud over me, man. And, it is life. It is a part of that. And I don't know if that makes sense,
Yeah, it does make sense.
because like, I don't know. It's like the more that I look at things when they go wrong and say that they're wrong, the more that I feel like pain, or the more that I feel frustrated, or the more that I feel anger, and the more that it causes stress and anxiety. And it doesn't allow me to be the best father, doesn't allow me to be the best husband, because now I'm taking out that, that anxiety out on them, or I'm being a little bit more, less patient with them and their questions. So like the more that I just kind of look at life and accept it and just say, I am this great being. I am one with source. I am word. And the more that I just kind of look at things and as they unfold, appreciate it. There's a balance. There is a balance to life, and like, just take it in and just be here in the moment, and just kind of like, everything's good. Everything's where it needs to be. And the more that I do that, the more that I just kind of, like I said earlier, let go of that rope and just allow things to happen. And they just happen. Like, I can't even explain it. And I know you talked about it before, but like, that's one thing that I wish my audience can get out of this conversation, is like, you don't have to try so hard to be something that you already are. Just sit back and kind of relax and just enjoy the ride. I don't know if you can resonate with that.
Totally. I'm an old 12 stepper, and I sort of got some confused sense in my 20s that my will wasn't a good thing. So, and I just became passive. It was like, well, God will show me the way. But finally, I had to get up off my ass and do stuff. And that was when I started to learn and get some self-esteem and things like that. But what I'm not feeling anymore is the need for approval. I mean, what's the point? I mean, I think we all want to be accepted. I think, we all want to be cared for in our communities, whatever they may be. And I think that's fine, but the idea that I'm supposed to be something I'm not has fallen away. And maybe because I'm saying, this is all right, who I am now. I'm not having to prove. When I was younger, I had a lot of shame about not having succeeded in the way that I thought in the field that I had trained in. And, I had a good life. I had a good life as an academic, and I, was able to support myself and have friends and all those things. But what I didn't realize was that I was always operating in this supposition that I had failed, or that I wasn't enough, or that there was something that I was supposed to do that would make it all okay. And if anybody told me that I would have ended up channeling, 10 books in 11 years that don't require any editing, I would have told them they were absolutely nuts, because I couldn't have planned it. And because I couldn't have planned it, it's the one thing in my life that I didn't try to control. I just kept saying yes and showing up for the work. And then it was fine. I tried not to make it about myself, or about the money, or about anything like that. Just show up and do the work. That's my job. We all have these jobs that we do. And it makes for a much easier way of being in the world. It really does. Because, it's not about competition, and it's not about some perceived idea of success. I mean, one of the challenges with the law of attraction teachings, I mean, I don't know, I'm just in general, I'm not talking about anybody's in particular, but, this idea that we're supposed to be getting stuff and that the universe is a catalog, well, there's nothing wrong with that. We can learn through anything, but most of what people want is what they think that they're supposed to have in order to be okay in the world, and it's bigger and better and shinier and more expensive. And I don't know that it works that way finally, and I think we end up missing perhaps the beauty that's right before us, and how remarkable things can be when we're not saying, well, that's just not good enough and I need to be more, it needs to be more. But I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, I was wrapped up in that, because it's like once you get this idea, right, of the law of attraction, and you try to implement it, and things do manifest. Like there's certain teachers out there that teach you manifesting little things, but then you get caught up in that game of trying to say, all right, well, this is what I want, this is what I need to get this. If I don't get it, then there's something wrong with me, or I'm not doing it right, or whatever. And I don't know. I just think that, the approach that like you're talking about with like the catalog stuff, like I just feel like we put too many labels on things. We put too much value on materialism. But the one thing that I did struggle with in my development was like, how do I live in this a society? How do I live in this world that we're in? Like, because things are starting to turn me off. Like I can't have basic conversations with some people anymore. Like it doesn't suit me, and it's tough. And I would say, all right, I'm not gonna, go over there because I know they're just talking about blah blah blah. Or and then I was still like dividing myself. Like even though like, I was on the spiritual path, I was still keeping myself separate because I thought I was on the spiritual path and they were talking about things that I wanted to talk about. Now it's kind of like I'm still on my spiritual path, but I'm still not where, obviously I'm not anywhere. I'm just here. And so like now I can still go over there and have a conversation and just know it's like it's just unfolding. It's just it just is like, like, because I was like, I'm not watching sports anymore because blah 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 blah, because it doesn't increase my conscious awareness, or doesn't increase my spirituality. I'm not watching sports anymore. And then now it's just funny how the path works, because you think you got it figured out, and you just figured out it's the ego. And then all of a sudden something happens, and you just have this, I don't even know. I don't even want to call it an awakening. It's like more this realization to everything is just unfolding. It's not even like, and it's all in divine timing. It's like you can, like you said, you're throwing somebody who's hasn't seen light in like 10 years and throwing them into like a light filled room. It's going to blind the crap out of them. Same thing with my path is, if you had told me the same things 5-10 years ago, I wouldn't have believed the word you were talking about. And then now I'm sitting back here and I'm like, just looking back on my path, I'm like, damn, like it's just crazy how this spirituality thing works.
Yeah, it is, and it gets crazier, I think,
I can't imagine it gets any more crazy, because I don't, what's the next book called?
Next book is called Resurrection, and it'll be out. I haven't turned it in, but I just finished the dictation, so the publisher will get it as soon as I finish.
Have they said anything more? I mean, look, I don't want to be like, hey, is there more books? But is there more books?
More books. I agreed. Well, I agreed. The guides agreed, and I agreed to do another trilogy. So Resurrection's the first book of a trilogy. And I think that'll probably be it. I hope. They said after that they may still channel books, but they wouldn't be in this sequence that they've been doing and building. There's other things for them to teach as well. So this one is Resurrection. I don't know what the two are after that. This is a trippy book, Resurrection. It came really fast. They did it over, I think there were a total of maybe 35 days of sessions over 6 weeks. So mostly I was channeling almost every day. And they're going into this stuff that they haven't touched on in other books. So it's really about embodiment and what it means to sort of come from what they call the upper room and be present in your life. Some of it's kind of describing where you're at in this infinite now, but they're also talking about what's possible there. I'm just reading it now. They said as part of the dictation, they were going to deliver the book fast to override my resistance to it. So I wouldn't have much time to question it, but I would do best to just read the book when it was done, So that's what I'm doing now. But I have issues with all the books. I don't write them, but I talk them into being. So I'm a collaborator at that level. But, my name's on the cover, but I didn't write them. So it's kind of weird. It's like
Yeah.
having a surrogate child, I guess. Well, it's yours, but
But I mean, they're great. I mean, you have such a gift, dude. I mean, to be able to channel this. I mean,
yeah.
these books are the message in them, like, I don't know how many times that I read I am word, right? It never really got the picture, like it's just the like you said, the energy. There is a real energy behind these words and these pages. And I enjoy having conversations with you, and I enjoy reading your work. And I just hope that, more people find value in this, because I think there is. I think that the collective consciousness, I think as, as a society, as a global society, global consciousness, I'm excited for where we're headed. It
Mhm.
might seem doom and gloom right now, just in the world of, the events that are unfolding. But I think that is needed because of the change that's coming.
I agree with you.
So how can people find out more about you? Where can they find the new books?
My website has a lot of information. It's just my name, paulselig.com. You can get the books from any bookseller online or your local bookstore. There's Amazon, Inbound, Barnes and Noble. You can order it or through my website as well.
Mhm.
And I do a lot of online stuff, so that's all on my website.
Awesome. Paul, I can't thank you enough, brother. Like, I love these conversations. I love your work, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy it too. I really do.